You know, when you think about most spiritual teachings, they often try to answer the big questions from the top down. They start with all these complex rules and ideas, and then kind of work their way back to some core truth. But the book, Zazen, which is what we're diving into today, it flips that whole script. It takes what you could call a bottom-up approach. We're going to start at the very, very root of existence and build from there, creating a framework that explains, well, everything, from how time even began to our own consciousness. So let's trace this journey right from the start.
The entire explanation is really built to answer one huge question. How did we get here? And I don't mean in an evolutionary sense, but in a conscious one. If our original nature is supposed to be pure, enlightened, perfect, how did we become, well, us, these complex, conflicted, ordinary beings we see in the mirror every day? This explainer is going to walk you through that step-by-step journey exactly as the text lays it out.
To even begin to answer that, we have to go all the way back. I mean, way back. Before time, before space, before there was even a concept of me or you. The source we're looking at describes this origin point as a state of just pure, unadulterated consciousness. Nothing more, nothing less.
Now, this fundamental state has a name. It's called the eighth consciousness, or Alaya consciousness. Think of it as our intrinsic nature. It's permanent, it's constant, and, this is the key part, it's fundamentally empty of any content. It's pure potential. And in this state, when it contains absolutely nothing, the text uses the term Buddha. But don't get hung up on the word. It's just a label for a state that's really beyond any name we could give it.
So, if we all start as this pure potential, what happens, right? How does the journey away from that state even begin? Well, it all kicks off with a single, absolutely pivotal event, the arising of the very first delusion.
Now, this is a really profound, maybe even a challenging idea. Our logical minds are probably screaming, okay, but why? What caused it? And according to the source, there is no cause. It just happens. This isn't some failure of logic. It's the foundational, causeless event that gets the whole cosmic ball rolling.
And just like that, this single, causeless event marks the very first transformation. A Buddha, that state of pure consciousness that experiences even one delusion, is now given a new name, Bodhisattva. Now, this isn't some fall from grace. It's just a being who is now on a journey defined by this first little flicker of somethingness. This is step one on the path away from our origin point.
Okay, so that first delusion, it doesn't stay lonely for long. One leads to two leads to three, and pretty soon you have just innumerable delusions. And once you have more than one of anything, a new faculty of the mind has to pop up to deal with it all. And this is where we see the rise of discrimination.
This new tool is called the seventh consciousness, or more simply, the discriminating mind. Its entire job is just to tell things apart, to recognize that this delusion over here is different from that delusion over there. It seems like a simple function, right? But its consequences are literally reality-altering.
And here is where things get absolutely mind-blowing. Think about it. By discriminating that one delusion came before another, what did you just create? The concept of time. By discriminating that this delusion is mine and that one is not mine, you've just invented the concept of a self, separate from an other. It even creates the idea of all the other beings out there by dividing up all those not mine delusions. So, time, self, others, the very fabric of our reality, it's all born from the simple act of telling things apart. Okay, so let's check our map of this journey. We had step one, a single delusion transforms a Buddha into a bodhisattva. Now, when that bodhisattva develops this seventh consciousness, this discriminating mind, they take the second step down. They become what's known as an arhat. This is a being who's achieved a high level of insight for sure, but is now defined by this world of separation and distinction.
So, we've gone from pure consciousness to a being that experiences delusion, and then to one that can tell all those delusions apart. But there is one final step, one last faculty that develops that really seals the deal and transforms an arhat into an ordinary being, like you and me.
And this is it, the sixth consciousness, or the attachment mind. The moment an arhat develops this mind, this tendency to cling to and identify with all those delusions it's been discriminating, that's it. They fall into what we call ordinary existence, into that endless cycle of birth and death known as samsara. This is the final step that builds the familiar world that we all live in.
So, there you have it. That is the whole three-step recipe. A causeless delusion kicks things off.
Then, the mind's ability to discriminate creates our fundamental reality of time and self. And finally, our attachment to that reality is what locks us into the state of being an ordinary being. This is the complete map of our descent.
But what does it really mean to be attached? The text starts with the most abstract form you can imagine: attachment to delusion itself, without any specific content. That sounds really complicated, right? So let's use a brilliant metaphor from the source to make this crystal clear.
The author tells this story about his elderly grandmother. For the last few years of her life, she would just fall asleep in front of the TV. If someone tried to turn it off, she'd immediately wake up, insist she was watching, and turn it right back on, only to fall asleep again 2 minutes later. She couldn't even tell the channels apart. She wasn't attached to the content of any specific show. She was attached to the TV simply being on. That is a perfect illustration of being attached to the process of delusion itself.
Now, here's where it gets even more fascinating. This whole framework explains that the very structure of our reality, the different realms of existence that you hear about, are actually determined by the type of things we are attached to. Our attachments literally build our worlds.
And using our TV metaphor, this slide just lays it out perfectly. The highest heavens, what's called the formless realm, that's for beings who are only attached to the TV being on, just the pure active consciousness itself. Below that, you have the form realm. This is for beings attached to lifeless objects, like the physical TV set. And finally, there's our home, the desire realm, for beings who are attached to other beings, like the characters on the TV show.
And here, in our realm, the desire realm, this fundamental attachment that we have to other beings gets a very familiar and often beautiful name: love. This becomes the foundational attachment that defines our entire world, and, well, it sets off a really powerful chain of events.
But as this attachment intensifies, the text points out how a dark progression can unfold. The desire for contact becomes sexual desire. When that desire is unfulfilled, when someone you love doesn't love you back, that love can actually curdle into hatred. And in its most extreme form, hatred can lead all the way to killing.
The scripture that's cited in the text takes this to its most shocking conclusion with the phrase, "I love you, so I eat you." Symbolically, the desire for union becomes so complete, so frustrated by the fact that you're separate, that it can devolve into this act of consumption, of literally making the other person a part of you. This is presented as the tragic, ultimate endpoint of attachment in the desire realm.
So, that is the incredible journey this text lays out for us. It's a complete, bottom-up explanation for how we went from a state of pure potential to this complex, love-filled, and yes, hate-filled world we all live in. Let's just quickly recap the core insights, the big takeaways.
It all starts with that state of pure consciousness. Then, a single, causeless delusion gets the whole process started. The power of discrimination then literally creates our fundamental concepts of time and self. And finally, attachment is the glue that locks us into our reality as ordinary beings, a reality whose very structure is defined by what we cling to.
And that is the incredible power of this bottom-up model. In just 3 conceptual steps, delusion, discrimination, and attachment, the source provides a framework that claims to explain the very origins of time, of space, and of our experience of being alive. It's pretty amazing.
Which, of course, leaves us with one final crucial question. If this 3-step descent is the path to becoming an ordinary being, trapped in this cycle, then what is the path back? What's the way home to that original point of pure consciousness? But that is a question for another explainer. Thanks for watching.